Hello everyone, my name is Marianne Guevara, and a huge welcome to all the new subscribers and a huge thank you to anyone who is revisiting my channel. Today is a video that I'm very excited on filming because I've been planning on doing this for quite a while, ever since I finished this series, but I finally had the time to talk about it. And today it's going to be a series review recommendation. It's basically going to be a gush video, a love letter type of video to one of my favorite series, and that is the Books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. Now, I'm making this video for the same reason that I made a video on the Mirror Visitor Quartet by Christelle Dabos, and that's just, I feel that not enough people are reading and talking about this series, and I think the Books of Babel are just incredibly underrated, and I just want to spread the word out. Now, I do have to mention that for the majority of this video, I will be straying away from spoilers, but there will be one particular section of this video where I'm going to go into heavy spoiler territory. Like, I will be spoiling the last book, The Fall of Babel, but I will leave a timestamp and you can check it down below where the spoiler will be. But for the majority, this will be a non-spoilery review. To kick off this video, I'm going to first sort of give a background, a little summary on the first book, Senlin Ascends. So this is the first installment of the Book of Babel, the Books of Babel. And in this world, it takes place in a country called or this world called and there's this place called the Tower of Babel. And it's heralded as this hub of progress, of enlightenment, of technical advancement, and it's comprised of several ringdoms that are basically their own little separate countries. Everyone's not really entirely sure how large this tower is and how many ringdoms there are, but yeah, it is a site of a lot of intrigue for many people across the land of and that includes a headmaster named Thomas Senlin. Now, Thomas Senlin is a very mild-mannered, a bit arrogant type of headmaster who is going to the Tower of Babel with his new bride, Maria, for their honeymoon. He has done a lot of research on the Tower of Babel, so he more or less feels like he understands, what he's getting into. However, before they even enter the tower, like when they're in the marketplace in front of the tower, he ends up losing his wife. She ends up disappearing, he has no idea where she's gone, and he basically goes into the tower trying to find her. He quickly, comes to realize that he has no idea what the tower has in store for him. He's, read a guide to the Tower of Babel, and he finds out that the guide is just complete nonsense and that he's completely out of depth. He's completely out of his element, and you're left to watch and see what this man, this very mild-mannered headmaster, is willing to do, willing to go through to find his wife and to be reunited with her. So that is a basic summary of the book Senlin Ascends. And honestly, I feel like one of the major reasons why I ended up falling in love with this series, falling in love with this book, strangely enough, some people might think, is because of Thomas Senlin and his journey. I do like how our main protagonist in this book is, a bit unconventional. He's not like the chosen one. Thomas Senlin is not a former assassin that has been betrayed and he's out for revenge. He's not some morally gray character like this thief who needs one last heist to complete so he can get his freedom. No, he's very much an average man. He's a schmuck, basically. He's, a normal guy that just got sucked into something that was so much larger than he could have ever thought. Thomas Senlin might make it or break it for some people, because they might, even though that I enjoyed the fact that he's very average, that he is out of his depth, that he is sort of a schmuck type of character, an everyday man, that might not appeal to some people, which is fine, I get it, but that's an aspect of his character that I really enjoyed, because he did feel relatable. Honestly, if I was in his shoes, I'd probably do a worse job at finding, my spouse. So I just really became endeared to him. And throughout this book, he grows, he changes. he becomes humbled. And we really do see what he is willing to do to get Maria back, to get his wife back. Now, while Senlin is the main focus in the first book, as the subsequent books follow, books 2 to 4, the focus does broaden a bit, because now we are introduced to a cast of characters, and I enjoy these characters very much. And the thing is, Bancroft, he writes them, like, each of them have, they have a certain skill set, they have strengths. So one character is, she's an Amazon. She has incredible physical prowess. And then you have a character that's like more inclined into engineering. You have another character that is, she's a skilled, master acrobat. And then you have another one who is more of like a strategist, but she can fight and take care of herself. They have all of these strengths to them. But what Bancroft does, and I really appreciate, is that he does make them, flawed. They do have flaws, and he allows them to be vulnerable. We see how their individual experiences within the Tower of Babel have come to shape their viewpoints, how they've come to inform and shape, the decisions that they make. And even though we might disagree with some decisions, it's understandable, because we understand more or less what each of them have been through, what each of them have learned through their own different experience while in the tower, and often not, that experience is a cruel one. Now, when talking about the Tower of Babel and the Books of Babel, the series in general, I have to talk about the world building, because this is a series that really challenges you to stretch your imagination. Whenever I hear someone talk about at least the first book, they describe it as weird. I've heard people invoke Alice in Wonderland, that type of like whimsical weirdness that you associate with that book. And yeah, I can definitely see why. Yeah, it is a bit odd. It is unconventional from what you would expect from other fantasy novels. I feel that when it comes to fantasy, they tend to move toward like medieval Europe, or maybe, you have urban fantasy, which is taking place in modern day, so it's familiar to us. But, Bancroft, especially when you get into like the rest of the, installments, like he's describing stuff that can be a bit, you're kind of stretching your mind to sort of visualize it. The idea of these ringdoms, these kingdoms or countries that are stacked upon one another in this tower is just fascinating. And as we continue on through the books and we're introduced to more and more ringdoms, we see how just different they are, how they differ from one another in terms of culture, in terms of perspective. And it kind of can be a bit of whiplash, because they're so different from one another, and they're all comprised in this one giant structure. And it's such a very large and intricate world. I feel like as you continue on with the books, the world just expands and gets just larger, bigger. And it can be a bit overwhelming. And the thing is, like, we don't even see the entirety of the tower throughout the series. We're only introduced to a couple of ringdoms, but it's just so diverse. And aside from the world building, what I really enjoyed about this series were the themes that it discussed. The Tower of Babel obviously had an original architect, and he envisioned the tower to be sort of this hub of progress. This is going to be the place where, the best of humanity has to offer. It's going to congregate here and sort of be a beacon to the rest of the world of And, there was a noble vision that it had. However, as time went on, the generations end up, forgetting about this original goal, this original ideal, and they just degrade. Each of the ringdoms degrade into, dens of greed, of corruption, and of cruelty. And in this series, you kind of have two factions that are sort of warring, these two ideals, these two perspectives that are at war with one another. You do have this character and the side that believes that, they acknowledge that, yeah, the tower has lost its way. It has fallen, it has fallen short of what the architect envisioned it to be. However, there should be, and there is a possibility of reform. of working towards that original goal, of that noble goal. However, there is another side that does believe that, the rot is just too far deep. It's too late to save the tower. It's got to go. Like, everything has to go. And as you're going through the book and you're seeing both of these sides, you're kind of left to wonder and like kind of go back and forth, because the tower is just a cruel, horrible place that just ends up hurting and using people. Bancroft doesn't provide a clear-cut, solution to all these problems. He doesn't end the series with, everything ended up okay. No, this is a very complicated, delicate problem that developed over generations, and it's going to take time, and it's going to take effort, and it's going to take vision and determination to make everything better, to move towards a true place of progress. Now we move on to spoiler territory. So, as I mentioned before, I will be talking a bit of spoilers for the end of the series, to the Fall of Babel, to the end of the Fall of Babel. So, if you have not read the Books of Babel, if you haven't even started Senlin Ascends, click away or just move forward. I've left a timestamp down below, but I will be talking about spoilers right now. So yeah. Now, you might think, Marianne, you were so invested in Senlin's journey to find his wife. Surely you are upset with the ending. And no, I'm not. I really do feel that people don't really properly take into consideration Maria's perspective. Because even though both her and Tom went through hell, like both of them, Tom had the good fortune of having companions to ease his burden on his journey. Maria had the very, exact opposite. She was held captive. She had to go through pregnancy by herself. When she did give birth, her child was used as a means to threaten her. She was threatened with assault. She was like physically and emotionally hurt. Like, she's wounded. She has been traumatized. And, on top of that, she believes that Tom had replaced her with Edith. It does make sense why her and Tom don't immediately dive back into one another. I think the way that Bancroft ended it is reasonable. Okay, it's going to take time and it's going to take effort for them to arrive at a place where they're close again. And the thing is, they had that chance. They now have time to breathe. They have time to heal. They have time to talk about what each other have been going through. They have time now to reconcile. And the thing is, the ending, it's what Tom wanted and what he needed. He got a fresh start. He got a new beginning with his family. And he got it, away from the tower, away from that place of pain and suffering. I'd be much less understanding if, let's say, Maria's last words with Tom were something final, like good luck and goodbye. But no. Her last words to him were, hey, can you come over to dinner? I'd like to talk more. Like, to me, that said that, okay, this is the first step. This is the first step to reconciling. For the last portion of this video, I just want to give a huge thank you to Mr. Josiah Bancroft for creating this series, for creating these characters. When it comes to a favorite series or a favorite book, I feel that, you could give all the reasons as to why you love it so much. But I think it's really just down to a certain feeling, a feeling that you can't properly explain. My relationship with the Books of Babel was sort of like, falling in love. You can't really pinpoint the exact moment when you did fall in love. You just know that you're in the middle of it. So yeah, I really, really love this series, and I highly recommend that you give it a try. At least give Senlin Ascends a try. If anything, it's very unique. It's quite different from the other fantasy series that, that are out right now. And I'd love it if someone gave this series a go and end up falling in love with it like I have. And if you've read the Books of Babel, and however you feel about it, please leave a comment down below. Tell me how you felt about this series. If you loved it, did you approve of the ending? Let me know. I'd love to discuss this series with anyone. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I convinced you to check this series out, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.